Why not water bath?
Because botulism is a thing. You can water bath stuff that is low acid stuff, or high acid, I'm sorry, with like tomatoes, tomato sauce, and fruit, that kind of stuff when you're making jams or jellies. Anything that is not high acid, you want to do in a pressure canner because you're going to kill off any of the bacteria or any of the germs that are in it. Meat, vegetables, stews, soups, fish, any of that stuff needs to be pressure canned. If you have a question, stop and do not can it until you speak to somebody who is an experienced canner. You do not want to kill yourself or any of your peeps.
There is a great website. It's the American. It has that. You can literally look it up by the type of food.
There's a number of them out there. One of the gals that I really like that I've been watching lately is called Rebel Canners, and they've been doing a lot of the old style canning and doing that kind of stuff.
National Center for Home Food Preservation. You go to that website.
Yes.
It'll tell you the pressures, whether or not it's water bath, pressure canning.
Right.
It would make sense to go ahead and download that and have
Yes.
a copy of it handy just for reference.
Yeah. If you buy a canner, your canner will, if you buy it from a reputable dealer, it will come with instructions on what you can and cannot can, and how to, and you know, in a water bath or in a pressure canner. So there's a lot of stuff that the not the FDA, whoever that does the canning stuff, says that you can't can. There's a way to can. Just the only thing I have not found a way to can yet is ice cream. Somebody has done it, and I'm gonna figure it out.
Freeze dry.
Freeze dry. Well, I got canned milk this year. I used to can bacon back when I was a heathen before I found out about beef bacon. So if I make beef bacon, when I make beef bacon, I'll probably can some of that too. Okay.
Doesn't make your whole house smell either.
It doesn't make your whole house smell. So this is my handy dandy camp stove, which is actually what I do most of my canning on.
So you get enough BTUs for that to do the boil? That's cool.
It will.
That canner, once you get it up to
Yeah, it doesn't take much,
keep it
right?
there.
So, like I said, these jars are already cleaned and sterilized.
How would you recommend you go about doing it?
The way I do sterilizing jars is you can do one of two things. You can either boil them, or you can do them in the oven. Boiling is okay, but it takes a lot of water. And I like to use it. Huh?
The dishwasher works great.
Dishwasher works too. I don't own one of those. So, anyway. So what I do is I take my jars and I stick them in a 220 degree oven for 10 minutes.
Okay.
And that will sterilize them. That'll take all your boogies and all your bads out. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to heat these lids up. I'm going to put them in boiling water for 7 to 10 minutes. Again, not so much that they're sterilized, but so that these gaskets get nice and pliable. Because we have these rubber gaskets on here, and the more pliable they are, the better chance you're going to have of a
How
good
many
seal.
times can you use the lids?
Once. You can use these lids once. There are lids out there, Tatler, and there's another brand that are supposedly reusable. There's mixed results on those. I have never used them, so I can't recommend them or not.
Now, if I'm hard-headed and don't listen to instructions very well, could I try using them a second time, and if they seal properly?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I know people who use lids more than once. My problem is that usually when I'm taking the lids off is they bend.
Okay.
So if you're going to reuse a lid, you got to make sure that it is absolutely flat. Okay, so that you get a good seal on it, because if there's even the slightest dimple on it, it will not seal properly. Okay, and if you have jars that do not seal, you can do one of two things. You can either put them in a fridge and use them as quick as you can, or you can try and rerun your canner.
Same thing with water bath.
Same thing with water bath. Okay.
Within 24 hours, you get one more shot at it.
Yeah. So like I water bath tomatoes, I water bath sauce and jams and jellies and all that kind of fun stuff. Anytime I'm doing meat, I'm going to use a pressure canner. Same thing with soups or stews, or get a little bit of wind issue here, so we're going to put this here. Now, I also have a big pot of water on here, and I'm going to use that to fill up my jars after I put my chicken in. I do chicken 2 ways. If you take raw chicken and you pack it in your jars, when you take it out, it's going to be like shredded chicken. It's not going to be whole pieces. It's not going to be whole chunks. I can a lot of it that way because I like to make shredded chicken or pulled chicken or chicken tacos or that kind of stuff. You can also take it and cut it into pieces and put it in hot water for or boiling water for 30 seconds or so, just until it turns white and you've got an outside on it. And then that way, when you can those will come out as chunks and they won't come out as shredded. So either way you want to do it. I do the same thing with beef. When I'm doing beef, if I raw pack it, it'll come out like pulled beef or shredded beef. The other way that I do it is I take it and I put it in a hot skillet. I'll basically roll it in flour and spice and put it in a hot skillet, boil, and brown the outside of it, and then can it, and then it comes out as chunks. Yes, sir.
Shelf life.
Shelf life. Depends on who you talk to. They will normally say the shelf life is a year. Sometimes they'll say there's 2 years. I have personally eaten stuff that I canned for 5 years, and I've had no issues with it. Okay.
Especially sealing broken.
Huh?
As long as it's sealed.
As long as it's sealed. As long as you're keeping it in a cool, dry place. As long as when you take it out, the lid is properly sealed and it's not loose at all. If it's bulged, don't eat it. If the lid is still popped down, then you'll see what that means when we get done. So
You don't want it to make that little.
no, if it goes tick, 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 if it does this, well, you can't, because if you push on the lid, it goes tick, 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 tick. It is not sealed. Get rid of it.
So it should.
It should
shouldn't
not
move at all. Make
should
any
not
sound
move at all. You
Okay.
should be able to tap on the top of it, and I'll show you after we get
Pressure
this.
canners seal so tight that when you take that ring off after the things cool down, you should be able to pick it, grab it by the edges of the
Yeah.
lid and pick it up.
Yeah.
And it will not come off.
Now, when I store stuff that I have canned, I store it without the rings on it. Sometimes if you leave the rings on, you can get what's called a false seal, which means it's the ring and not the actual lid that is sealing whatever is in that jar. Okay? So I store all of the stuff that I pressure can without the rings on it, which means I have a huge box of nothing but rings, which is awesome and the other thing that happens when you start canning, maybe not so much lately, but this happened to me a lot before the beer flu happened, is that people would find out that you can. They're like, you know what? My grandmother used to do that, and I have 4 or 5 cases of these mason jars in my garage. Do you want them? The answer is always yes. So I got tons of jars that way. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to take, after this water gets hot and everything gets boiling, is we're going to put our chicken in our jars. We're going to put hot water on top of it. We're going to stick the end of my spoon in there, make sure we get all the air bubbles and all that stuff out. Make sure that it's filled up to 1 inch of headspace, which is about the bottom of this ring. And then we're going to put it in our canner. We're going to get the canner hot. It's going to vent through here between 7 and a steady stream of steam for 7 to 10 minutes, and then we'll put our weight on it. When the weight starts to jiggle, that's when we start our time. So it's 75 minutes for pints, 90 minutes for quarts.
What's the largest you can do? As long as it'll fit in something like that.
As long as it'll fit. So there is no recommendation on half gallons. I know people who have done them. I have not done them, so I'm not going to give a time on them. Again, that's iffy.
You're playing with
Yeah.
fire then, because you're not
Yeah.
sure that heat's penetrating for enough time.
Right. So part of what happens is when you're pressure canning is that you're cooking everything through from the outside in. And if you've got a half gallon, how long do you have to keep it in there before everything gets cooked all the way through right down to the middle? So I've never canned anything with half gallon jars.
I've never seen any FDA standards.
No, never. Well, but there's a lot of stuff you've never seen FDA standards on. I've never seen an FDA standard on milk, on being able to can milk. However, I have canned milk in quarts, and there's a way to do that, but you're not going to do that today. So,
Advanced stuff.
huh?
Advanced stuff.
That's advanced stuff. That's advanced canning. That's canning 102. So we're not going to do that today. So until everything gets hot, that's what we're going to do. We're going to hang out and watch.
Every pressure canner is a little different. Follow the instructions it comes with.
Yes. Absolutely. Follow the instructions it comes with. So I am a stickler for having enough water, because I have had times where I was canning and didn't have enough hot water to pack the jars with, and then I had to reboil water. And at home, it's not so much a problem. Here, it's a huge pain in the rear end. So I want to make sure that there's enough water. You're supposed to have at least an inch to an inch and a half of water in your canner. I usually put a little bit more than that in, because I've seen a canner that ran, an All-American like this, that ran out of water that the guy wasn't paying attention to, and it became oval. Oval canners do not work. It's bad. Yeah, I watched the guy, he melted a canner. The other thing with pressure canning is it's not a set it and walk away from it. You have to keep an eye on it, because you want to be able to turn the heat off in case anything happens. Now, like this one has an emergency, I forget what they call it, it's a pull-out plug. So, if something should happen with this, before this canner explodes, this plug will pop out and will vent. Okay? So, if you have a canner, get an extra one of these, get an extra weight, okay? Because these wind up in pockets and then they go.
So mine is tied to my canner.
Yours tied to your canner? Yeah, that's probably a
Right
good
thinking.
idea. I should probably do that, because I lose
A
stuff.
little piece of twine and
Yeah.
tied it right to the handle, which is nice because when it's hot, you can use the string and you drop it right on.
I don't know, my fingers are, I don't worry about it. It just,
Steam burns hurt when you.
yeah,
They hurt good.
yeah, yeah.
Water bath canning.
You have to be
burn
careful.
something. Yeah. Easy. I mean, you gotta let it cool down. But when you're water bath, all of a sudden you open that thing and the steam comes at you. Ask me how I know how much that hurts.
So, and like anything else, it's trial and
Side
effort.
of my arm.
You know, it's you gotta, don't be afraid of it, go do it. You know, and after you've done a few runs, you get comfortable with it. You know, the first time that I ran this, my kids were like, "You made a bomb!" And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a control bomb with food." And they were like, "So, yeah." And then they actually discovered the last can of bacon that I canned as a heathen, which I canned in 2012. They discovered it in 2019. It was in the back of my cabinet, and they opened it and ate it, and
They're still alive.
they had no issues. Huh?
And they're still alive.
Yeah,
It's good.
they're both still alive. Yeah. The other thing that I love to do is I do all of my own soups, all my own stews. Like I have a bunch of chicken right now that's getting ready for chicken soup. Because there's nothing better than when you're sick, is going downstairs in your pantry and get your own chicken soup. And eating your own chicken soup. Yeah. So, all right. Until it gets hot, there's nothing else to talk about. So,
You're gonna can something with
We can
beans in it,
dance.
make sure they're all the way rehydrated.
huh?
You're gonna can something with beans in it, make sure they're completely rehydrated.
Yeah, there's some stuff that I don't pressure can. Like when I make soups and stews, I do not, like I make chicken and rice soup, I do not put the rice in it because the rice breaks down. I've made minestrone soup, I do not put pasta in it because the pasta breaks down. And then when you open that a year from now, what happens is the pasta or the rice is just mushy. And what happens is you have a nice thick gravy, but no actual pasta or no actual rice. The other thing that I don't can stuff with is beans, because you'll have the same issue with it. If I'm making like a bean soup, is I'll make the basic soup, I'll make the basic stock for it, and then when I'm ready to eat it, I'll take and I'll throw the beans in. So
We did lentils, so there's
Lentils?
it's really not much in ways of liquid in
Yeah.
that, so.
not a fan of the lentil. I know that it's like a superfood and all of that stuff. I'm not a
You
huge
just
fan
haven't
of
had
it.
a bakery.
Huh?
You just haven't had a bakery.
Maybe not. I'll have to come to your house and have it. So, You know, it's gonna be good food.
Still can't.
Who?
I'll eat his lentils.
Huh?
I'll eat his lentils.
Yeah.
What do you spice it with?
Huh?
What do you spice it with?
So my wife cooks it. I don't, but so she's German, so she likes to actually put, which I would have never tried. She puts at the end, she adds white vinegar, and it's amazing.
Cool. All right. That brings me to that's a good reminder.
Whole nother level.
Okay.
So flavor enhancers. There's two flavor enhancers: salt and acids.
Yep.
So when you add that vinegar, it's kicking it out.
Yep.
The other thing that I do is I'm gonna take a splash of regular white vinegar on myself. And I'm gonna put a splash of it in my canning water. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna prevent the jars from getting cloudy. Okay. When we actually put stuff in the cans, what I'm gonna do is take paper towels, white vinegar on it, and then before I put my lids on, I'm gonna clean the tops of those with the white vinegar, so that if any junk or water or chicken juice or whatever has gone on it, it's not gonna damage that sealer. It's not gonna upset that seal.
Vinegar's a real good prep to have.
Vinegar's a real good
A
prep.
lot of vinegar when you're
Yeah.
water bath.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot.
Yeah.
You can use it to sanitize with, clean with.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of food prep.
Yep.
Makes that calcium real good.
Log
Yes.
drains.
Huh?
Log drains.
Kill weeds too.
Yeah, it will. It will. The 1.5 gallon pump sprayer and half vinegar and half water.
Yeah.
Good. 100% vinegar.
You just do 100% vinegar.
From a
I'm
medical
cheap. I
aspect
don't want to
too.
spend that much money on vinegar. $2 worth of vinegar, man.
Yeah, well then you get the weeds coming out. Oh, I got weeds again. Kill it right the first time.
From a medical aspect, you can even soak your feet in it, you know, and you gotta take care of your feet, especially if there's no doctors around.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up how to make vinegar. Vinegar. It's a long process. It's something you're not going to want to do. So just
Yeah. Waiting for water to boil.
Watching paint dry. Our favorite pastime.
Any questions about canning? No? Well, you can. Anybody who's got questions, you can ping me or email me, or since I actually have a phone now, you can actually text me. I know.
No, you did not.
I did.
Yeah,
The buttons fell off the old one, and I had them glued and duct taped on, and they would not stay on, and it just. I know. I didn't want to show you because I knew you were going to be disappointed.
I'm sorry. Wow.
I've been worried he's going to try and fold it though.
Yeah, right.
Don't worry, I'm not going to blow up the world with it. I can barely turn it on and off. So,
But the man knows where you are now.
the man knows where I've been since I was 14. So if the man wants to come and get me, the man is perfectly aware of where I am. So this is going. So the lids will go for. I'll let them go for another 5 minutes. The water that I'm putting in the chicken does not have to boil. It just has to be hot. You do not want to put cold jars in a warm canner, because again, you're looking at that hot and cold stuff. Check your jars before you're going to use them for any cracks or deformities. I always make sure I run my fingers around the tops of the lids, because if there's a crack on them, that'll fail. The one huge fail that I did have is I was canning chili. I had 7 quarts of chili, and one of the jars had a flaw in it. And about 20 minutes into the canning process, we heard, boom! Oh crap. Turn the heat off, wait for everything to come down, take the pressure off, and the one can had exploded and had exploded the other 6 cans. So I had a canner full of glass and chili. Because it turned into a bomb, and it just. So yeah, that was awesome.
That'll keep the bears away.
Yes, it will. Yes, it
That's
will.
gonna mess
So,
with your mind with a pressure canner too. Is when you do open it eventually and take those out, they're still boiling.
oh yeah, well, and we'll get to see that. Once you get done with your canning run and you turn your heat off, you have to wait for your pressure. We'll have What's the elevation here? Do we know? It's less than. Is it less than 1,000 feet?
We're still probably at 10 pounds here.
Well, because I can't. I usually can everything at 15 pounds
Really?
because
That
I
high?
have not canned anything below 1,000 feet. So I just and you can't hurt it. So I'll probably run it at 15.
Yeah.
But what you'll do is you'll wait for this to come down to
522.
0 before you take your jiggler off.
I think what, it's under 1,000 is 10 pounds?
Yeah, under 1,000 is 10 pounds. I can, I can everything at 15 anyway, just because you can't hurt it that way. Because if you take this the weight off before that, the pressure
Let's make a vacuum.
becomes a vacuum and you can explode your jars. So it's one of those things.
If you drop below your recommended pressure, you have to start the time all over.
Yes.
Where the pressure canner is, when it's under pressure, it reaches higher than boiling water temperatures.
Yeah. So, according to my gauge here, at 10 pounds we're at
240.
240, at 15 pounds we're at 250.
Water
So-
boils at 212.
212, yes. So. Okay. So that's gone on. These are good. So. I usually have everything spaced out much better than it is right now. So.
I mean, you're using a Coleman stove, so.
Get a piss.
I love my Coleman stove.
Yes, but I'm also saying it's a little small.
Well, normally when I'm doing it in my house, I don't have the wind guards up because there's not a whole lot of wind in my house. Except for maybe the dog, you know.
550 feet above sea level.
Okay, thank you. This is 6 pounds of pre-cut chicken. And because I do not have a sink with soap and water handy, I'm going to use gloves. All right. Now, a lot of people will put a half a teaspoon of salt in here. You can do that if you want to. That's more about flavor. It doesn't have anything to, it doesn't affect the food preservation at all.
So you don't need salt.
You don't need salt. So, tools you should always have canning is you should have a canning funnel. You should have a jar lifter, and you should have one of these little magnetic lid lifters because you do not want to stick your hand in boiling water to take out lids. So,
Question about salt.
yes,
Does iodized salt matter?
no, does not. You can iodized or sea salt.
It'll stain. That's about it. It'll get a darker color.
Right.
Okay.
Is there any canning where you have to use one or the other?
Not that I've ever come across. But again, you should consult. I thought the wind blew my thing out. So we're just gonna pack this chicken down here. See as much
If you
as
see
we can
canning
in here.
salt, the only thing is it's not iodized. And it's finer. Dissolves better. Salt is salt if you're in a pinch.
Yep. So we have our chicken packed. We'll put our hot water in. And now I'm going to take the edge of this spoon and just, and you can see we just lost about a ½ inch of headspace because there's air bubbles in here.
Now, do you have to get all the air out of it?
No, the canner's going to do that.
So I've seen other places that don't have water. Other people don't have water.
I have done ground beef without water,
Yeah.
it's got a different consistency to it. It's grainier. And it's more like it's almost more like dehydrated beef than it is canned beef. So
Ground beef
and I've
has
done
to
it
be
both
cooked
ways.
first, right?
Huh?
Ground beef's got to be cooked first, right?
Ground beef you should cook first. What I usually do with ground beef is I take it and cook it with taco seasoning and all that fun stuff, and then when we want tacos, we just take a can and we just heat it up and throw it in with our taco stuff. So,
What about like chuck beef?
in the chuck beef, you can take it and cube it up. And again, if you want chunks,
Yeah.
you want to cook it first. If you don't mind if it comes out shredded, you can just raw pack it.
Okay.
So we're gonna take our vinegar and we're gonna clean our lids. We're gonna take our lid lifter, put our lid on. We're gonna take our ring. Now, you do not want to crank these. You do not want to tighten them. Okay, these should be hand tight. So what I usually do is take it and make it tight, and then back it off like like an eighth of a turn, just so that you're making sure that the ring is got your lid fully in contact with the rim of your jar.
The rings are reusable,
The rings are reusable, yes.
not the lids.
And I have a box full. There's probably 200 rings in there.
Right now, lids are actually harder to get than the jars.
Yeah, they are. I was actually moved to buy a box of lids every time I went into Walmart for a long time. So I have a couple of extra. But now you can't get them. No, it's really, really
Now, if
hard.
you see them, just buy the whole case.
Yes, just buy the whole case. And what happened is that people like us who were canning were keeping the industry at a sort of a stasis. And then when the beer flu happened, all of these people discovered canning and bought out all of the canning supplies. So one day you went into the store and there was tons of canning supplies, and the next day you went in and there was nothing. So.
I found cans at Target. And
He did.
Yeah, I did.
I have some of them. Because I have buddies.
And if you have the money and you
Get
see
'em.
them, get them.
Yeah.
They don't go bad.
You don't have the money, find it.
Do what you can do.
Do not go into debt canning. Just like anything else. Now, pint jars are normally going to hold about a pound of food. Quarts will hold 2. So normally what I do is when I'm buying food to can, is I'll do it that way. So I'll buy, if I'm doing 6 pints of chicken, it'll be 6 pounds.
So what do you do with your cooked chicken?
Huh?
What do you do with your cooked chicken?
What do I do with my cooked chicken? I do a lot of stuff with my cooked chicken. I make soup. I make chicken soup with my cooked chicken. Cubed chicken, my kids love to do shish kebabs with. You could take them and bread them and fry them. We make chicken nuggets out of them. Anything that you would do with regular chicken, you can do with canned chicken. My daughter discovered the idea that we could actually, because she's a chicken nugget freak. And it's so dry. And she's always been a little bit leery of the canned stuff until I showed her that you could actually make chicken nuggets out of canned chicken. She was all over that. So. And again, it's one of those things where you have to get people used to it, because I've had lots of people say, I'm not eating anything that you can because that would, I don't know if it's safe, I just serve them food and don't tell them.
Yeah, right.
And then afterwards I say, that was all out of my pantry. So. I'm having to pay particular attention because I'm not used to talking and having an audience when I do this. So. And this is awesome if you go to the store and they have a sale on whatever it is, chicken or beef or whatever it is, and you don't have the freezer space, and it
But it's nice though, 'cause you're sitting there watching TV and you hear it stop thinking, you know you got a problem. You know you're still what it is. Too much. You got to stand out right there. This is like kind of, you should give it the big visits 3 or 4 times every
No,
year. Once everything's up, temperature on my stove, I can put it on low and adjust that. And gas. It doesn't matter, use gas electric. But those, American can't blow those up.
One more,
It's like blowout plug and everything, so the pressure gets too high.
based on the engine
But
that
the weight too would have to, the weight jumps.
the air filter
That weight would, that would have to get applied.
cover.